September 1st, 1989. Dear Diary.
So, hi Broadway vloggers. Today we are with Ms. Rachel Flynn, and many of you may recognize her from the ensemble of Heathers, which was a huge hit this past summer, I guess, mostly. So we're going to ask her some questions. Thank you so much for joining us.
This is a blast. Thanks for having me.
So just to start, something simple.
Were you staring at me? This is terrible.
You're more than welcome to read them.
Just need to be prepared.
Were you a fan of the Heathers movie before getting involved with the musical?
Yes and no, actually. I was a very delicate child, and Heathers was on TV a lot when I was growing up. It had like VH1 had the rights or something, and every time it came on, it really freaked me out because it's got that opening scene with the dream sequence with the croquet and the head, and it was like too much for 8-year-old me. Yeah. You know. But kind of one of the loveliest parts of the beginning of the Heathers process. I did Heathers LA, and then moved here with it. I did the Heathers demo. Actually, it was my first job out of college.
Wow,
yeah,
good deal.
A billion years ago. And one of the first things we did at Heathers LA and Heathers New York for rehearsal was we all got a bunch of popcorn and we watched it as a cast. So I think there's an ownership thing, but also just being not 8, you can appreciate how dark and ironic and beautiful it really is as a film. So it took me a little bit of growing up before I became a really solid Heathers movie fan, but I am now. So.
So I was going to ask, how do you feel about it now?
Oh God, I love it. We haven't watched it in much the same way that I haven't watched any of the bootlegs. Like I think it's too close to it. Yeah. Like now I'm gonna wait a little bit and then go back and enjoy the Heathers experience. Yeah.
So we had an Instagram question from Natalie Carter with 3 R's. Who is your favorite character in Heathers? And the second question is, what musical do you want to be in that isn't currently on Broadway?
That isn't currently on Broadway, right. So like an older musical. Yeah. Okay. I think the answer to the first question, who's my favorite character, is Martha. I think Martha is my favorite character in the show, and the creators have said beautiful things about that character because she's sort of she's a combo character. She's an amalgamation of the character of Betty. Do you know the film? A bit. So yeah. Betty Finn is this character that we cut from the musical. Well, I say we. I was not involved. That they cut from the musical. Who's like Veronica's best friend, and she's just like sweet. She's a genuinely sweet person who likes her sweet things, and that of course means that she's an automatic target in the world of Westerberg. And then Martha Dunstock is a character in the movie as well, who's just more of she's a visual gag. She's heavy, and she's portrayed as a slob. She doesn't know self-care is not a thing for this girl, but in a very comedic way. Isn't it funny how heavy people? It's horrible. Yeah. It's really terrible. So Martha in the musical is a combination of those things where she's never going to get the right thing, and she's just too sweet to survive. To survive is a terrible way to have said that. But I think she's my favorite because I think that she's the sort of, I can't remember if it was Kevin or Larry said that if she's the sort of character that you can picture afterwards going out and doing something incredible in the world. She's the one who is just idolized at Comic-Con for being, because she believes things really passionately. And she wasn't going to change herself for high school, which makes her terrible for high school and amazing for life. Yeah,
I love that.
So I think she's the most unironic and enthusiastic character of all of them. She was a joy. I got to go up a couple of times in New York, and it was like a joy every time. A terrifying joy, but a joy. Right. Yeah.
And then the part 2 of the question, is there a musical that you want to be in that's not currently on Broadway?
It's kind of a tough question because I love new musicals. I moved here to do new work. I don't, as cool as they are, there's just not a part for me in Oklahoma. Unless you're a casting director watching this who's casting Oklahoma, in which case there totally is. Definitely. Call me. So I feel like a lot of the roles that I'm most excited about are being written. Yeah. That's such a cop-out of an answer.
No,
I'm sorry, Natalie Carter. There are musicals I adore and would always love to. I love Spelling Bee so much. I think it's wonderful. All the William Finn stuff. There's stuff out there. I'm a massive Sondheim fan. Yes. Massive. And I don't have much professionally that I'm a little young for all the parts I want to do. I want to be Mrs. Lovett, That's what I want out of life. So any of the Sondheim stuff, if it gets revived in the next few years, like The Company is one of my favorite musicals of all time. You know, any of those women. He writes women in a beautiful way, in that they are people.
Yeah.
They are characters. And they are
idea.
rich, and they are and it's surprisingly not the norm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Okay, great.
yeah.
Do you have any favorite backstage stories you'd like to share? Stage door memories, or
God, the stage door of Heather's was so nutty. It was lovely. Because I think especially it took a little bit for kind of the groundswell of support that happened for Heather's to kick off. And when it did, like when the album came out, it was so strange. And it was an odd sort of disjointed thing where we sort of knew we were closing,
Right,
and then we would
right.
go outside and there'd be like screaming people.
Right.
And it was like, what is happening? Why can't those two things affect each other?
Right.
In a positive way. Stager was amazing. The things people made, I still have all of them in like in a binder and in a little. Dustin loves it. We used to have like a box of Heather's stuff because people made like T-shirts, and I have a tank top somebody made, and they made them for each of us. And on the back, they'd printed like a memorable line or piece of the show per character.
Wow.
So mine says like "Horse I Never Got for Christmas" on the back,
Yeah.
and it was just so. It was wild to be part of a project where somebody noticed that was a line I did. Like, that's not what you're supposed to take away from as an audience member. It's like, oh yeah, that's the one Stoner Chick does.
Right.
I remember there was we did Broadway and Bryant Park,
Right.
and I sang Shine a Light that day because I don't remember why, because Michelle and Molly were both like out of town or sick or something, which is how that works. You're like, you're third on the list, and somebody's like, you're singing Shine a Light, which I had to like learn because I hadn't ever rehearsed it. And there are videos that people sent me afterwards of like sound check, and which you do in front of 2,000 people, which I again wasn't aware of. And people would send me videos, and I was singing, just because we were down a few people, I was singing Michelle's part, I was singing Fleming, and then we would get to the Stoner Chick lines in it, and we didn't have anybody else, so I would sing those too, and there'd be girls on the videos going, oh, she's singing her part as well, and it was like, how awesome that you know, and I guess that makes sense. It was Rent for me. It was like, I knew every person's line and what they did, and same with Spring Awakening. When I was in college, like I knew what stuff was Anna's and what stuff was Taya's, you know? So I guess that's not too surprising, but when it's you, you're like, how on earth?
Yeah.
Like, focus on the protagonist, people. This is not, but it was touching and really thrilling. In terms of backstage, it was a silly, wonderful cast.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been a lovelier group of people, and they're still. I had dinner at Evan Todd's house last night, which was lovely. He's in town being very fancy because he's producing Spring Awakening, the new Spring Awakening. So he's in town being very fancy.
Good.
So it was wonderful having coworkers, and I think something you forget when you're doing like high school theater and college theater is that when you do this, they're coworkers. Like that's what they are. They're not like your best friends, but it's lucky and a lovely thing when they're coworkers who end up being your very close
And it
friends.
continues.
So I think a lot of things backstage were really well documented because the boys like post-it noted the girls' dressing room one night, and then they stayed up for the 2 months that we had left. And the girls covered the boys' dressing room in not silly string, regular string, so they couldn't get through.
Oh, good.
Like it was a jungle gym. Very professional. And also the boys had an Xbox backstage,
Of course.
which was lovely. And I think that was my boyfriend's fault. I think that was Dustin's fault, and Dan Dominich and Matt Schatz. I'd say that they would just play NBA Jam like throughout the show. Very professional. Very, very professional. So there was lovely stuff backstage. Dustin and I would meet backstage. It's probably my favorite once a night. Because, we'd see each other at home. But we didn't even have a lot of interaction.
Right.
So right before the end of Act 1, when the football players are getting shot, we would meet behind the scrim and sit down and like ask each other how our day was going and like listen to the like Ryan and then Dave, sing their face off to Barrett and then Chris and then Kate. So that was. There are nothing but good backstage. I meant giving you 100 answers to every question.
I love
okay?
it. Yeah, it's excellent.
Can I tell you my favorite before we move on?
Please do.
We had this is so lame and embarrassing. We had a thing called Squat Club backstage. Squat Club.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you ever noticed this, but the vocals of Blue, like when they're in the graveyard and Ellie and Alice or Ellie and Crystalline were singing like the ooh so blue.
Yeah.
It sounded very lush, and that is because the ensemble girls had to be backstage singing into their mics for that
okay.
song. So we were offstage singing just for that one song, or there might have been something else later in the show. So we had to sit back there every night, and we love the show, but sometimes things get boring in a show when you're doing it 8 times a week. And having to go backstage and sing "Oh So Blue" was boring every night. And not that it wasn't lovely, and we enjoyed listening to them and watching Kurt and Ram do their thing, which was always hysterical.
Right.
And a couple of times when I got to see Dustin do it. But so we needed something that passed the time. And Kate, I think it was Kate Fairbanks, one night at the beginning of it just started doing like squats backstage while singing Blue, and then like lunges, and Chris and I eventually joined up, and then Lauren Cipoletti, and then so every night during that song we would like go back and we would do our like 4-minute exercise routine
Excellent.
backstage.
Get some cardio in.
Yeah, you forget that adds up, because I'm not a person who will be sitting throughout their day and be like, I should do some lunges right now.
Just fill the time.
But there's such a group mentality of like, if somebody else is doing it, you're gonna do some squats.
Yeah.
So I got very strong during Blue during
Good.
the show.
Good.
Yeah.
Glad
So
that was
they're gonna
a
be
major
so.
takeaway.
And I hope not embarrassed that I shared that. What a lame thing. We would exercise backstage. I loved it.
That's great. It's a great way to pass the time. You're not just sitting there.
It was lovely. It was
Good.
lovely. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Natalie. Oh, no, that was mine. Thank you. So you kind of touched on this. What were the final weeks of Heathers like, especially as the show as it exploded? No pun intended. But in
because of the
popularity.
bomb.
Yeah. Spoiler.
They were lovely. They were lovely. It was definitely sad. Yeah, it was definitely sad because, like I said, I did the demo however many years ago, and then I did Heathers LA, and then my boyfriend Dustin. I feel like I'm not giving everybody who's watching. Hopefully, you know who these people are. My boyfriend Dustin played the geek. What was his name? Beleaguered Geek. I don't. He's lovely. I swear I know these things. And he came out and did part of the run in LA, and then we both re-auditioned and did New York. So all told, we've been doing it for, a year plus, with a couple of breaks from start to finish. And that's a lot of time to spend with one baby, you know.
Yeah.
So it was sad that it was ending. It was also a couple of like false starts of like, if we were going to be continuing for a little bit, and it was just shocking to see people really responding to it in such a way.
Yeah.
It became very rock concerty in the last couple of weeks, which was lovely to see. Lovely, and the gifts were neat that people were sending to the stage door, and people were sending us cookies. We all gained a lot of weight in the last couple of weeks because people kept being like, "I'm sorry, you're closing. Here are schmackeries."
Nice.
One good friend of the company, his name is, he goes by J. Jack Storts, has become like a very close friend of a lot of the cast. But at the time, we just knew of this like guy who kept like sending these giant platters of schmackeries cookies backstage. So I remember like a month-long sugar high, and being like vaguely sad about the show closing.
Yeah.
That's all I remember from July, I think. But it was really, it was a really joyful experience to start. People started like shouting back lines during the show in that last week, in that last month or so. And I remember whomever was playing Veronica at the time, usually Krista in that last month, would start September 1st, and people would finish the line. And it was like, what? Like that is, we were very lucky to get to experience that kind of response and joy and enthusiasm about something that we were just putting out. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And the people who created the show were very good at kind of pointing us towards to remind us to be mindful of how lucky that was, like that is not something that happens with every show. So to experience that and live in it fully as much as we could.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah, me too. And then Dustin and I ditched town the day it closed. We got on a bus to go hang out with our families for 2 weeks, which was the way to do it.
Yeah,
we didn't have to wake up in New York like unemployed the next day.
Right.
You know?
Had parents cooking and
So wonderful. Yeah, so wonderful.
Well, I mean, I had written this down as a question, but then what was the transfer like when you had started in LA and then bringing it to New York? Were lots of things changed? Was it?
Yeah, transfers are always a strange. I've only done a couple, and this was definitely the biggest. They're always a little uncertain because you don't know. Obviously it's transferring because people liked option A, so you don't want to change it too much. So there was a lot of blocking that stayed the same. Of course, there were personnel shifts. The ensemble wasn't the same. Heather Chandler switched. I'm trying to think what else. Like a few different things that really shifted. Of course, it was funny because Crystalline Lloyd, who played Heather Duke, was doing another show at the time. So Alice Lee came in, which was so wonderful. And then when Alice left, Crystalline came back, which was such a we got to work on it, which was great. So it was funny how those things ended up working out. So you're getting used to the room and you know some of the people, but you don't want it to be too exclusive for the new people. So you're trying to be, the Fleming stuff changed a lot, and of course we got Michelle Duffy. Which is always a joy. Anyone who gets to work with Michelle Duffy, they should count their blessings. So, and her entire song was brand new. There was like a Sting number there before, which I actually really wish more folks had gotten to see. Because AJ Myers, who played Graham's understudy and played, I don't even know what his name. Do you know what his name was?
I forget.
He was like the beefy jerk or the beefy asshole in LA, but they must have changed it in New York. Anyway, he also played like a visiting inspirational band leader who sang a song called Girl Named Sue about suicide. And it was like a police number. It was like a little reggae and a little ska. And it was so weird, but I thought it was really funny.
Does that exist anywhere, or?
There's an LA bootleg somewhere. I'm sure someone industrious will be able to like figure that out. Stay away from me, Miss Teenage Suicide. It was so funny. And he had like a bad mullet wig. So I really enjoyed that. And then when we were auditioning for the Fleming stuff again, because I was the Fleming cover, so I had to like learn all her stuff for auditions. There was no Shine a Light because they hadn't written it yet. So they instead had this page and a half single space monologue where Fleming did like a motivational speech about not killing yourself, which was the darkest thing I've ever read. It was brilliant. Kevin wrote it or Larry wrote it. I don't know who. I don't know. I don't know. And it involved like puppets. It was so weird.
Wow.
It was so weird. So that stuff changed. Like stuff changes all the time. And throughout New York, the big things that changed were like little things. They were tightening constantly. I remember there was one line that Veronica had that throughout previews they just gave her a different mean thing to say to Duke and McNamara every time. And it was funny to hear the audience reactions of like when it got too dark. Right. Like, because there were a couple of times she said something at them that was like, the audience responded with like, oh. And you're like, okay, so back up a little bit.
Not that. Wow.
I don't even remember the line. I probably can't even say it. It was like when she shows up and like is like, thanks for leaving me in the cemetery. But like a couple of times she called them some words I probably can't say.
Okay, all right.
And it was like, so like little things that they were throwing in to be like, how is that? Does that work? Does that work?
Where are the limits?
Which was cool to watch that process happen. But some stuff stayed the same. Like I remember Kevin and Larry talking about Kindergarten Boyfriend and hasn't changed. Like not a word since the first time they wrote it. I think like 2 notes have changed, which was confusing. And when you do that in front of Larry, and Kevin, they're very precise people, so they want you to sing the current version. Yeah. So there's some stuff that's been the same kind of from the beginning. Freeze Your Brain is essentially the song that they first wrote that they did at the pub.
Incredible.
Yeah. So it's cool to see those and also see the things that have like shifted.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
So should I ask this?
You can. Yeah.
So how did getting involved with the Mean Girls workshop, something you have been involved with, come about, and what has it been like? What was it like?
So Mean Girls is a very, very exciting project from a little movie.
I've heard of it.
And Tina Fey is writing the script as she wrote the movie script, and Jeff Richmond is writing is composing, which is cool, and Nell Benjamin, Larry O'Keefe's wife, is writing the lyrics. So that's how I first got involved. Nell, I think, put my name out there because they were doing some rough demos. And so, honestly, so far it was demos and like a table read, and I hope to be kind of seeing what happens with it next. It's phenomenal. They have done such a cool job so far, kind of see, and it's fascinating to watch people who are so good at their jobs, like shifting stuff already and saying like this, let's try this. It was my first time meeting Tina and Jeff, certainly, and it's not my first time working with Nell, and I think Nell Benjamin is like one of the geniuses working in New York City. I think anyone who gets to it, Nell and Larry, truly. But as a Harvard woman, like I want to be Nell Benjamin when I grow up. Yeah. I think she is the smartest, the funniest, the warmest. And that's why so many people want to work with her and work on her stuff. She's wickedly funny. The darkest, dirtiest stuff from Legally Blonde is hers. And Larry's. Actually, they're both plenty dark and dirty and funny. I would follow her anywhere. If she were like, I'm going to do this adaptation of a Chekhov thing into a musical, I'd be like, great, see you there.
Good.
Great, wonderful. Because you can feel safe in the hands of somebody that capable and that enthusiastic. I wish everyone could experience the kind of environment that those two create in theater. So that's all I can really say about Mean Girls. In part because that's all I know about Mean Girls. That's been my involvement so far. I think there's a demo coming up and maybe another read, but it's pretty early in that process.
Yeah. Do you know what their target is?
I wish I did. In part because I would love to know for me. My involvement has been one of those lucky things that happens when musicals are in process, which is somebody gave me a call. I didn't have to audition for anything, and was lucky to be in the room for that period of time. And I just hope that can continue because there's so many musicals that take so many twists and turns, and so we'll see.
That's exciting stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
I should say actually, the other person I was playing opposite that day, I was doing the table read because I was playing Katie. Aaron Samuels, the love interest that day, was Dave Thomas Brown from Heathers. Right? It's pretty lovely. Who I didn't have a single line with in Heathers, so it was nice to get to get to look him in the eyes and talk.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's great. Well, this was kind of a similar question. Are you working on anything else now that you can tell us about or want to?
I can, yeah. So there are a few projects that are in the works, and the one I'm most excited about is a project whose name I can't tell you.
Okay.
But that is being, you're probably sensing a theme, but being written by Lawrence O'Keefe and Nell Benjamin. And it's a project they've been working on for a long time now, and I adore it. I think it is the funniest, darkest, smartest, warmest show I think that I've seen written in forever and ever. I've never been this excited listening to music of a new project that Larry has shown me. I haven't been this excited since he showed me Heathers. Since he sat down 7 years ago and was like, "This is a song called Freeze Your Brain," and I was like, "What is happening? What, you wrote this?"
Right.
And then I felt that way for every song that they've showed me about this new project. We workshopped it up at Williamstown Theater Festival this summer, and it's going into doing a reading of it next month in the city, which will be great. And I've been told I'm not allowed to tell you anything about it, except that it's wonderful and it's a coming.
Okay. We can't wait.
Yeah, it's delightful, and so far involves a bunch of a few of your Heathers folks that people might be excited about. Get to work with Michelle Duffy again, which I would do for if she were involved in the Chekhov project. I would do it. But that's what I'm working on mostly, and I life of an actor in New York. I did a commercial last week for eggs.
Exciting. Eggs.
You gotta eat. It turns out you gotta live and eat.
When did you first notice your passion for theater, and were there any soundtracks you listened to frequently?
Yes, there were. I was very young, as I think a lot of us were, and I had an elder sister who was an actress, actually professionally for a long time, and then she didn't like the hours because they're rough. And now she's a playwright and a writer and a blogger out in Chicago. She's a blog called lollygagblog.com. She's phenomenal.
Check it out.
Yeah. Her name is Keely, and I just kind of wanted to do whatever Keely wanted to do when I was little, because she would stand on stage and people would applaud. I have a very strong memory of watching her as the Artful Dodger, and it was like she would do a silly voice and people would be like, "Yay!" and thinking that sounds great. I want to do that for a living. I'm from a family that was really very supportive of careers of any kind that made you happy. happy. My father was a phenomenal musician, a guitarist for a long time. And so they were all about go get a degree and then after that do whatever makes you happy. So it was very comfortable to want to do that. I played Rabbit in Who's in Rabbit's House when I was in 4th grade, followed quickly by Christopher and Christopher Columbus in New World. Yeah. I don't want to, those are 2 title characters in 1 year, guys.
That's pretty trailblazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, high school theater, I'm from an area of the country that has incredible access to the arts and education programs in the arts, from the Berkshires in Massachusetts. So I spent a lot of my middle school and high school years at Shakespeare and Company in Lenox, Mass, which has just an incredible education program. And that was when I was like, oh, I'm going to move to New York and be a classical actress. That's what I'm going to do.
All right.
I'm going to do Shakespeare because I love it. And then I haven't done any Shakespeare since I moved here, unfortunately, because there are a lot more musicals. There just are. And I think once you do one type of show in New York, that's kind of what you end up doing for a little while.
Yeah.
But it was an incredible place to grow up and learn that words were important and that was a magical thing to be able to make people laugh and make people think on stage. I still love it there. I go back and nobody knows who I am because they see so many kids every year, but I walk around singing This Used to Be My Playground. I adore it. It's an incredible place to see theater. And plus Williamstown Theater Festival's up there, Barrington Stage Company's up there. It's a great spelling bee was created up there. The On the Town revival, everything has come from this place, which is. And I grew up being it's near the Ben and Jerry's, So that was lovely. I had Rent on 2 CDs, Act 1 and Act 2, and Act 2 had a scratch, so I didn't know it very well. So I listened to Rent over and over and over again, and over and over and over again in my car. Spring Awakening was when I was in college, and I listened to that and went to the open calls and was calling back for a role forever and thought, but I was still in college. I wasn't a performer really yet. I was at school, but I was like, this is how I hit it.
Yeah.
And it's funny now too, because I did Heathers with Alice Lee and these people who did Spring Awakening already, and I'm like, oh, that was you. You're the one who made it to the next round.
Right.
So it's funny that we were all kind of having that collective dream of I'm going to go there and these people. And I think about it now because I go into that casting company a lot, and I think you have no idea. You have no idea that I was that dorky, chubby college kid who was I want to sing for you.
Right.
I loved those things, and I really loved Shakespeare because of Shakespeare and Company, and straight theater because my older sister loved it and needed people to play opposite when she did Tom Stoppard plays.
Right.
So she would memorize Rosencrantz and Guildenstern and make me play Guildenstern so that we could do the tennis scene or something.
Yeah.
I knew all of Arcadia by heart. I just that was the stuff I lived for. And then went to college and did all the weird experimental stuff you do in college. I directed Martin Sherman's Bent, which is the darkest show you can direct, and it was beautiful. So you'd get to do all those things where you play in college. So I was lucky to have just a bunch of opportunity to experience a lot of different types of theater and art and go, this is all very feasible. And meet people when I was an undergrad Lawrence O'Keefe and Neil Benjamin, who had gone to a place like Harvard where there wasn't at the time a theater major, and live to tell the tale and work now in professional theater and go, if they can do it and Natalie Portman can do it and Rashida Jones can do it, I'll give it a shot, So that was Matt Damon, little people. Never heard of him. I'm actually sure. Anyway.
One day maybe your name will be on that list.
Yeah, here's open.
Rachel Flynn?
And Rachel Flynn. I'll come back.
Great. What was your first Broadway show?
The Lion King.
Yeah?
On a school trip. I was older. I was older. I was older for these kids who show up at 6.
Right.
I was 14. I was on a school trip, and it was a month after September 11th. And I remember there was a very point of pride because we all felt obviously there was this amazing thing happening emotionally in New York as people dealt with this tremendous tragedy and this horrifying set of events, and everyone felt a little connected from that day and where they were. And I remember there being this really strong point of pride that the mayor had gotten on and said, "Come to New York, come see a show." And we're we are not canceling this trip. We're going to the Lion King. That was our strong sense of patriotism. We're showing up and going to, and it was beautiful. We had it, and I think we saw that, like a lot of people, those school theater and school chorus trips were how I saw Broadway for 4 years, 5 years. Yeah, I saw Fairly Modern Millie with Sutton Foster.
Nice.
I stage doored and got a picture with Gavin Creel. And I remember thinking, like, this is as cool as it gets.
Yeah.
Like, being at this stage door and talking to these people is as cool as it gets. Yeah, I remember all of those so viscerally, so strongly. I remember, like, being freezing, waiting for Gavin Creel to come out and being like, I hope he doesn't think we're lame for doing this.
Well, how did it feel to be in the reverse shoes then when people were outside waiting for you and Heather's?
Bizarre. Because when it's you, you're like, you don't need this. Especially, like, you know, we were doing ensemble stuff, you're like, just talk to other people. You don't need Stoner Chick's autograph. But people would wait, and it was humbling every time. It was really, if people knew what a thrill that was every time somebody has come up on the 2 train and been like, Rachel, I loved you as Stoner Chick, like, of all things.
Right.
Like, they would, like, some people will say, like, oh, I didn't want to, and I totally get that. I never to bother people in New York. Like, there's an unspoken rule. But if they knew how much of a thrill that is every time, it's lovely. And for all of us, I think.
Rachel, say hello.
Yeah, please say hello. Because otherwise, like, there are people on the 1 train and you're like, do I have something in my teeth?
Right.
Because you're 16, and I think maybe you're a Heathers fan, but I can't tell, so maybe I have something in my teeth. Yeah. Always.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any particular performers that you look up to?
Yes. Emma Thompson, kind of above all. I want to be Emma Thompson also when I grow up. There are so many. I have a real admiration for actresses who've kind of pushed beyond their initial status as ingenue or whatever. You know, there's such oddly rigid rules about what you play and who you are in this business that it's inspiring, and it's a bit of a relief to see people who've said, or I'll just play whatever I want. And obviously not everybody gets to be Emma Thompson and age into roles, or like a Helen Mirren who like hits really late or things like that. But I have such a strong admiration for women who've been able to do that and cultivate the other pieces of the business that they like of themselves that deal with this business.
Right.
So writing, directing.
Yeah.
It's such a cliche to say, oh, I'm also a writer, I'm also a director, but like a lot of us got into this because we have a strength and a passion for creative output in a lot of different.
And you do it well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But so it's exciting to think that by virtue of succeeding in one arena, it will open doors for your written work, for your directorial stuff, for just collaborating with interesting people and exciting people on stuff that might not otherwise get made. So I look up to writers and directors and performers who have kind of bridged those gaps between either what was expected of them in the industry or just the field in which they began.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. What is your favorite thing about the New York City theater community?
What is my favorite thing with the New York theater community? I think it's also my least favorite thing, which is that it's smaller than you'd think. And this can feel stressful, like when you're waiting for a job. Or it can feel really warm. Like I remember, they just don't tell you things like when you open a show in New York, other casts send you a good luck, like program or pamphlet or like card that they all sign. And we would do it for people too. And it just it makes you think like, oh, wow, you guys know that this is happening here. Like I think my favorite thing about it is that there is one. You feel like when you move here, listen, I moved here not from a conservatory, non-union, showing up, the way a lot of people do. And it can feel isolating and it can feel massive. Right. And you think there's no way in, and even if there is, there are too many people to ever make an impression. And the responsibility that comes from the realization that that's not true is a little scary. Because you can make an impression, so you should be kind all the time, even if it's not your natural inclination, although it should be.
Right.
It's nice to know that you can have an impact. That by being like a hardworking person and a kind person, or just like doing your job well, people will notice because it's a smaller community than you'd think. And I like that about it. I like that at the end of the day, it's a community of coworkers who know what you've been through. I think there's a certain amount of in the trenches camaraderie.
Good. What do you like to do with your free time, if you have any?
Normally I love to run. I'm a runner. I've done a couple of marathons. I'm supposed to be doing another one in a month. I don't know if I am, because the running has been on a little bit of a hiatus for injury and some other things, and schedule mostly. So I love to run, and actually I still run, again, when I am running. I meet up with Crystal and Lloyd from Heathers and Lauren Cipoletti from Heathers a lot, and we do big loops in the park, and so I love doing that, but I also feel like you spend your first couple of years here hustling to such a degree that you miss a lot of New Yorking. So what I love to do in my free time is New York, is like going to Smorgasburg in Brooklyn and eating good food. I've done Escape the Room twice in the last month. I like going to the things that we sort of reserve for when family's in town or friends are in town, but that we should do all of the time. I'll go anywhere and eat soup dumplings. If I'm being honest with you, that's what I do in my free time. I go out and I eat soup dumplings, or just dim sum in general. I think. And also I have a very happy apartment up in Harlem with Dustin, and we've painted it and decorated, like the things that you do when you're not in the show anymore. We've like painted and decorated, so it's like a home now. So my favorite thing to do is like go home and watch Netflix, like in our cozy apartment, and cook, which is so lame. I recognize that, but
beautiful.
It's our favorite thing to do.
What's your favorite thing to watch on Netflix right now?
My favorite thing on Netflix is always the same. It's the West Wing. I've watched The West Wing from start to finish upwards of 9 times, from season 1 to the end. I can do probably every episode of the first 4 or 5 seasons, because I kind of stopped watching around then. I've seen all of them eventually. I went back, but the 4 or 5 are my favorite. I can probably do most episodes word for word. That's lame. That's the lame thing. I actually, for a little while, thought I would go into politics. Well, then that's why I first went to Harvard, because I wanted to do politics. And then I realized I didn't. I just wanted to be on the West Wing. So that was the transition. And I'm luckily dating a gentleman who loves it almost as much as I do. So we spend a lot of time watching that. And Property Brothers. We watch a lot of Property Brothers, and we talk about like what we would do with our like house that we buy in New York City. Which we won't do until one of us gets a sitcom.
You never know.
You never know. Never know.
Very cool. So can you tell us more about running marathons? So you've done it a couple times now, or?
I've done 2 Bostons.
Okay.
I'm not a runner naturally. I'm not particularly good at it. So that should be a success story for anyone who is not a runner. I quit cross country in high school a mile into my first race.
Wow.
I was like, I hate this. I'm not doing
Gotta
this.
know your limits.
This is a little bit of a sad story, if that's okay. I don't mind talking about it. But my father, Dave Flynn, was diagnosed with colorectal cancer 4 years ago, and it was advanced stage, and it was a lot of it was very scary and very sad, and I didn't know what to do, and so I thought to myself. And he was starting treatment, and one of the places that he was starting treatment is the incredible Dana-Farber out in Boston. And I didn't know what to do, and I was heading home for Thanksgiving, and we had just found out, and I went online, and I went, I'll run the Boston Marathon for Dana-Farber. That's what I'll do. I'd never run more than a few miles at a time. But I remember thinking, like, there was some connection in my brain about, like, if I can do this, it'll make Dad healthy, or, like, he will understand something. I don't know what. But I was, that was my big plan. I told my family, and instead of being excited, they were all like, don't do that. That's an insane thing to do. But I did it. So I raised money for them. It was a lovely kind of showing of community. That was a lovely, lovely moment that I really was grateful for the New York theater community, because I had to raise a certain amount of money to run for Dana. And one of the things I did is Larry O'Keefe and I got together, and we put on a show, and all the proceeds went directly to Dana-Farber, and Larry did it for free, and the duplex in New York gave us the space for free, and Jenna Lee Green, who was in Heathers, and Corey English, Dan DeLuca from Newsies, we had met on a show. They all came for free and sang songs, and we raised like a good chunk of the money I needed just in this one night. Was amazing. It was an incredible moment too, and all of these people came. Like I remember there being like casting directors and composers that I thought were just like casual friends who came to cheer and like be part of it, which was really a touching moment. I ran. This is further. This probably is. I'm so sorry. I feel like the most downer story on your show. That was the 2013 marathon. So my family was at the finish. They were all fine. Thank God. I was not at the finish yet. So I made it to mile 24 and had to turn around. And it was a very obviously a horrific day. But we were very lucky that everyone was okay in our family. And because I didn't get to finish, the marathon offered free bibs for the next year for anyone who didn't finish. So I was like, well, I have to have to come back and finish. I got 24 miles. Right. Then I had to run another 3 back to the hotel, so I actually finished, but because all the turns and stuff working. Right, but I wanted to cross that finish line. Yeah. And the second Boston was in the middle of Heather's, and the company got together and took a vote. Because we were down 3 actors the day I was supposed to leave for Boston. It was part of my contract that I could go run the Boston unless we were down people. And we were. There were like, and people were sick. Like people would have, it was incredible to see like that group of actors, like they would have gone on half dead to like let me go that day. And they did, some of them. And we were still down people. And I remember that they took a vote, the producers, the creatives, and the cast. And it was like unanimous to let me hop the bus. And I got a call that we were like down a person, or we were down 2 people, and I'm on the bus to Boston, and I get a group text from Carissa, our dance captain, that just to everybody that says, don't panic guys, we'll have a rehearsal that day. And I was like, what are they panicking about? And it turned out another person was down, and so Carissa had to go on as somebody, and somebody had to go, so we were short 2 people on stage, and Matt Schott went on as Stoner Boy that day for the first time. And I remember being like so horrifically guilty that they were, but they couldn't have been. That's the sort of group of people that Heather's cast and creative team were, that they would have done that so that my dad could see me cross the finish, which he did. I finished and came back, and I did. Dancing that show a day and a half after a marathon was like a not comfortable experience.
I don't think so.
I smelled like Tiger Balm from the 3rd row, I swear to God. But I was very lucky to get to run both of those. I consider myself very, very, very lucky. Yeah,
it's really incredible. And you'd like to try and do the New York one as well?
I'd like to do the New York. I don't know if it's going to work out this year. I'm signed up. I have a bib. Okay. I may end up walking and running it. I would like to run it for sure one day when I'm trained up a little bit better.
Yeah. There.
Yeah, next one. The next one. New York's on my list and Chicago's on my list. So.
That's very cool. Yeah. All right. Do you have a favorite underappreciated show, or a show you think more people should expose themselves to?
Yes, I do. Let me think of what it is.
Okay.
Actually, the first one is not underappreciated yet. It's just unknown. My boyfriend, Dustin Sullivan, is also an incredible lyricist. He is a lyricist through the VMI program in New York, so they have, obviously generated a lot of shows in their day. And he co-wrote a show with Casey Marino and Jonathan Reed Gelt. And they are adapting it from a book called Dust and Shadow. And it is a novel written by Lindsay Fay, and it is Sherlock Holmes and Watson investigating the Jack the Ripper killings.
Wow.
Guys, it's so good. It's so good. It's astonishingly good. And it's being developed, and there have been some very cool actors involved so far. Like, very, very cool. Who was in this last reading? It was insane. Lily Cooper was there. Bryce Pinkham was their Sherlock. Aaron Lazar was Watson. Like, it was silly. They were crazy.
Be able to see this anywhere?
Yes, but that's why people need to call their congressmen and get them some more producers. Because they have some people who are kind of putting it up. But, any show, it takes a long time to percolate. So that's kind of where they are in the process, is reading and fixing and reading and fixing. And I hope that you'll be able to see it soon. It's called Dust and Shadow. You should absolutely look it up. So that's my current favorite that I will listen to on repeat. It's literally Dust and Shadow and Hamilton, like, on my phone.
We'll get to Hamilton.
I don't listen to musical. This is so lame. I don't listen to musical theater really at like in my off time anymore. I'm too big of a rock fan, and also it's it can be a little stressful because I think once you're doing it for a living, you stop listening for like enjoyment and start listening for like, I wonder if anyone's going to put up little night music, where is doing it that I could go play Petra, you know what I mean? So but Hamilton and Dust and Shadow I listen to on a continuous loop. Yeah. It's like those two and a lot of Brooklyn lo-fi. It's really lame.
I like the combo. It's good. Great. Are there any particular shows you're excited for this season that we're talking about?
I've seen Hamilton 3 times.
Lucky duck.
I am spoiled rotten.
On Broadway 3 times?
The public once and the Hamilton. The
Hamilton.
Hamilton and Broadway twice.
Okay.
I've never been jonesing for a show. I haven't been jonesing for a show this hard since high school. I don't think.
Yeah.
There's nothing about it that isn't joyful to experience. So I'll probably see that 5 more times if I can scrape the money together.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff coming up that I'm very excited about. There's Dave Thomas Brown is in an off-Broadway show right now that I hope gets a future life called The Legend of George McBride.
Okay.
Which if anyone watching is in New York, they should get tickets before it finishes up in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
He's stunningly good in it, and it's incredibly funny. It's incredibly great. I'm blanking, unfortunately, on the playwright's name. It's directed by an incredibly talented gentleman named Mike Donahue. It couldn't be a more perfect comedy. And I love that. And there's a lot of cool stuff. There's a show I'm very excited about that is about to get very buzzy that's being co-created or co-produced through Soho Rep and Ars Nova called Futurity.
Futurity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which you should go see. It's the Times was just writing an article about. I think they just wrote an article about like how to get that like Hamilton feel, that buzz, like of joy from a show that's not on Broadway right now. And they wrote about Futurity. You should go get your tickets because I think they're selling out very fast.
Wow.
There's always really exciting stuff that I can't wait to get to see. And there's always a little bit of a like, if they've got celebrities in them, are you going to get to see them?
Right,
so, I'd like to see Therese Keane. I'd like to see, is it Charles III? Is that the name of it?
Yes.
The one.
Yes,
that was playing in London the last time I was there, and I couldn't get a ticket. It was like too exciting. So I'm really thrilled to hopefully see it here. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah. Obviously, Waitress is coming from ART.
Yes.
That's exciting. Wild. So wild. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining us. Honor to have you, and definitely keep our viewers posted of anything you're doing.
Yeah.
And
Thanks for having me.
happily. So glad we could do this. Bye.
She's the dove that sings outside my window.
She's the twin from whom I'm separated.
She's the horse I never got for Christmas.